the conservative political agenda.
What is that agenda?
If I know, as far as I can tell,
I was gonna say,
as far as I can tell, kill poor people, black people, and trans people.
No wonder you don't want to be called a conservative.
Okay.
Conservatives are basically just mired in cruelty in your eyes.
Right, right.
Like, I mean, at this point, yeah. This is an interesting thing y'all were just watching.
Have you watched this?
Have you seen the Woman Views debate? Okay. We figured that you would hate it.
I kind of hate what I've heard so far on both sides.
Really, both sides? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff is I agree with in terms of just like the woman just said that black voters are to the left of the Democratic Party, which is, you know, one of the reasons why I made the last video I made. Is the main reason why I'm here, because Adam triggered me randomly one late night when I didn't have anything to do by saying black people were conservative. The next thing you know, I'm here.
You mentioned that in your video, and I think we're miscommunicating though, because I think of political orientation like I think of sexual orientation, like it's something that's a
spectrum.
No, it's fixed. Like if someone's same-sex attracted, I don't think you can change it by putting them in some sort of conversion therapy. I think it's kind of the same with political intuitions. And your intuition, I got it specifically from you saying that you didn't want your son to go to a school that he would be the only black kid in an all-white school, which is, I mean, if we're going to make a spectrum from multiculturalism to ethnocentrism, you'd fall on the ethnocentric side of the equation.
So the question, and so the thing, when we ever get into like these labeling the behavior of Black Americans using the frameworks built out of like, you know, traditional classical political ideologies, if you don't understand Black people, then you'll often misunderstand what's going on. So like I don't want my kid in a school where he is, we call it the fly in the milk experience, for different reasons.
FD, do you know that I went to a school where I was like one of 4 white people? It was an all-black school in Southern California.
I've heard you say it multiple times.
Okay.
Like many white people who have hung out with Black people, but you cannot help telling the story.
Well, no, I only say it because I can empathize. There's like a feeling that you have that is just like, I'm the outsider here. I'm an outcast. These people do not accept me. I'm here in their sandbox.
Yeah, it can be rough. It can be rough no matter the experience. The thing to point out, though, as to why this is not a conservative reasoning behind it, is that your milk and the fly experience does not have the same possible outcomes of the possible outcomes, like range of outcomes for positive to negative for you are going to be a lot thinner, right? Versus a Black person in an all white environment. Like, this is kind of research based at this point, from the way they're going to be treated by the school to their connection with their own communities, their mental health outcomes later in life, just like hanging out with white kids hanging out with white boys as a Black boy, you have to remember that you're not white. And so like the things that your white friends will get into, you may not be able to get into those things because the consequences for those things may be different for you.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of reasons why why I do respect and agree that there's an ethnocentric tint to it, and that your experience, the negative aspects of your experience are probably tied to that same othering environment. Because I don't think it's easy for a white kid to be surrounded by all Black people or all anything. Like, that's not good that's not healthy for anybody when they're a token.
Right.
But the reasoning and the outcomes are very different, and it's important to like have those differences mapped out.
Well, I want to say 2 things. First, I want to add a little bit of nuance. I'm assuming you meant, Adam, which didn't come across, which is that like there's a spectrum of, let's say there's a spectrum of multiculturalism on one extreme to ethno-nationalism on the other extreme. And I think that, just because you don't want to be or to have your child be the only person of their ethnic background in a school, I mean, that doesn't make you, fucking ethno-nationalist. I think like you could be in the middle of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to clarify.
I'm not accusing anyone of being an ethno-nationalist.
Right. I just want to make that very clear. Okay.
Well, and also the beautiful thing about America, though, is I always say Americans come in all colors, which an ethnicity doesn't have to be racially based. I mean, it can be, but
of course. Right.
And for the record, my children go to a relatively mixed school.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to a very mixed school as well. Yeah. But and the second thing I want to say was I think we're kind of talking about different things, because I think you, FD, are talking about like that there's an outcome to a Black student going to a white majority school, and that's affecting the thinking of parents making these decisions or having these opinions. Or Adam is talking more about, he thinks people are operating not according to like logic or facts, but that all people have these moral intuitions that are kind of these gut feelings that are guiding their behavior. And so he's kind of talking about that these gut intuitions are kind of how we label someone as being in the left and the right.
I mean, so there is research that speaks to literal like brain physiology that inclines those to be more prone to authoritarianism and more prone to, leftist whatever isms. So there is that. I think when we look at like the rise of Trump, right, and the current state of the Republican Party, I feel like Republicans, and I know this may upset some of your viewers, so I apologize up front. I'm always
no apology. You don't have to apologize.
Let me look at I usually don't look at the chat, but I'm gonna put it on the screen this time around and see what happens.
Stick a knife in deep.
It's gonna see.
Well, just since you've kind of paused anyway, I just want to, on the authoritarianism thing. Like, I view authoritarianism as it's not really a political philosophy. It's a worldview. It's the amount of vigor somebody uses to enforce their worldview, or to even force their personal worldview on others. So you can have leftists that are totally authoritarian if they're forcing other people to be leftists against their will. So I don't like, the authoritarianism is kind of a strategy that people use to implement their will on others, not really a philosophy.
So yes, I think that's relatively accurate, but there's like, there's 7 definitions of all this shit in the dictionary.
Yeah.
What I was getting at specifically, that the research I read that lends itself to conservatism is basically like strong man theory, that like with the rise of Trump and under the current, socioeconomic reality that America is in, when a guy like Trump comes up and says, I'm going to tell everybody what to do. I'm going to put everybody back in their right place. I'm going to make America great again. Trump got Bernie, like there were Bernie Sanders Trump people. There were people that supported Bernie Sanders and then moved to Trump. And I think that a lot of that comes from, the concept of conservatism is, from my perspective, is basically believing that the world is best when it's this particular way. Like there's this, I love me, I can't remember the guy's name. He made a video that really kind of illuminated the fact that a lot of liberals will say every conservative thinks they're a shamed millionaire, like they're going to be an eventual millionaire, that they will be rich one day, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why they vote for these supporting the rich policies. And he argued, I think very effectively, that what the average poor conservative, the average middle class, working class conservative is really doing when they support policies that obviously hurt them is just supporting what they see is the appropriate like order of the world, of thinking that these people that have these things, it's almost some Puritan shit. These people that have these things, that have this money, that have this power, they are genuinely better and more deserving. And these other folks over here, whether they be blue-haired liberals or radical leftists, et cetera, are trying to disrupt the natural order of the world, and they must be stopped. And I personally see that way more in our politics right now, just kind of a resistance to change, because change is inherently bad if people are trying to change things from the order that was already established.
Mm-hmm.
That's your boy, Jordan Peterson.
Well, I put change on its own spectrum. Like I try to factor political spectrums out to single factor analysis. And obviously, if there is a spectrum from, radical change to no change, ossification, basically, you're going to have a left and the right. The left is way more, in general, way more apt to go for radical change, and the right is more traditional. They're more, even to the point of change being dangerous. But that's a completely different political spectrum. You were probably on the far left on that spectrum because you're more for radical change.
So you did a video recently that you want to talk about, which was on Black conservatives, which I like that Adam triggered you into making.
Like that video was in my spirit.
Yes.
And when I heard that comment from Adam,
it was the tipping point.
It was a tipping point.
For this comment, really,
this was
a comment. It changed my life. It changed my life. May change the world.
I'm glad you did the video. You should give Adam a shout out in the video. You should say, this asshole Adam Friended left this comment that inspired this video.
We did a response video too, where we literally talked about it for a bit, I think. So
did you guys already?
We
talked about you being a conservative.
That was
having the conservative intuitions. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Can you guys hold up 1 second?
Yeah,
I need to change my chair or I'm going to have a bad night.
Right.
1 second.
Are there any super chats we could move to?
Yeah. No, we respond to him we didn't respond to the video just now.
We respond. I said he was a conservative in the comments, and then we talked about that on stream.
Yeah, but then he came on and talked to us about that afterwards.
And then we clipped it out too. So
right. So
it's so interesting that somebody, like I said, a lot of people are proud to call themselves conservatives. Some people, you call them a conservative and they're like, you've just
well, okay, so
called them a dirty word.
I think the thing that's important is how exactly are you defining conservative? What is your definition of conservative that you're working from?
So I guess it's multi-pronged. So first, there's just the general supporting the conservative political agenda in America, right? Then there is
what is that agenda?
Fuck if I know. As far as I can tell,
I was gonna say,
as far as I can tell, kill poor people, black people, and trans people.
Look at this. Oh my God. No wonder you don't want to be called a conservative.
Support conservatives killing trans people. Okay.
Conservatives are basically just mired in cruelty in your eyes.
Right.
At this point, yeah. To me, the real conservatives are the Democrats at this point. And whatever the Republican Party is right now is like this rogue fascist faction of bizarre nonsense that somehow still gets to participate in our political project here in this country.
So so maybe a better way to ask the question would be, when someone says, "Oh, black people are socially conservative," what are they saying?
Oh, that's a good. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, what they're talking about is black people essentially doing whatever is going to be less dangerous to our existence on a regular basis. So in the video, I pointed and I edited this wrong so that it came off even more conservative than I actually am. Oh, no. But I talk about in the video, I have a son who has dreadlocks like me. Mm-hmm. And he's asked on multiple occasions to dye his locks different colors. And I tell him, no, he can't do that. Now, and this is also good for illustrating a point that Adam kind of alluded to earlier about why the nuance of the intersection of race is important. So I tell my son no, not because I don't want him to come off the wrong way or because I want to stifle his personal expressions, or boys don't do that. It's because I know that locks are already enough for the average police officer to age up your child or target or recognize your child, or et cetera. And then when you add color, you're literally adding more pieces to that equation.
Really? I think isn't the opposite. Like if there's a black guy with blue hair, you're like, oh, this is some blue haired,
No. So first and foremost, there's the Bloods and the Crips. So those are gangs that have existed since the 70s and 80s. And so there's some mental connection there. But no, like just having been around, black children, lots of young black people color their hair. It doesn't have to have a real logical element. It's just anything that makes you stand out to police as an African American. It's kind of like I always like to use video game references. So if you imagine yourself like in an RPG, you're playing Skyrim, and you have like several different weapons with perks and features and passive enhancements or debilitations.
Notice by police debuff applied.
Yes. If I cut my hair right now, I'm wearing a polo shirt. So if I cut my hair and shave nice and clean and wear this polo shirt, it will reduce the likelihood that I catch police attention by a relatively significant margin, significant enough that it's something I've thought about at times, And so like,
what if he dyed his hair pink?
Pink, it's still, I don't think there's any color that would make a difference. The color of the locks is the problem.
I understand, right.
And so when we talk about black people being conservative, so like that's a extrapolation. We're talking about like, still being religious. I went to church today. I haven't been to church in years, but I went to church for Easter today. Still lots of black folks there, probably per capita. I don't know this data, but I'm pretty confident that black people are in general still more church going than other races in the country. Still, adhering to traditional or trying to pursue traditional family norms. So on and so forth. This is not stemming from like purely just this belief that this is the only way things should exist and we should create systems and rules to make it so everybody has to adhere to this. This is just, I know if I do this, I'll probably be better off in the circumstance I'm in.
So why do you think that people intuit that conservative means religious, traditional family norms, systems, rules-based systems?
Because I think that's the role that religion has played mostly in this country, across the board. Separation of church and state has never been all that effective here.
No, but I mean, like, why is that defined as conservative, do you think?
Well, because it's been conservative. Like, it's the church, like historically, the church has been, starting out with just anti-race mixing, like segregation, what I'm saying, is tied to the church. Of course, gay marriage, just sense of self-expression. Was that Footloose, where they wouldn't let the kids dance?
Right.
But actually, as I'm saying this, and this is going back to what you all were watching and like just even my political evolution, I think part of that is also just a psyop on all of us to like, y'all watch this thing about woke. I may go back and watch it, but like the whole conversation around woke, I find annoying because none of this actually matters to like the material issues of most people in this country, let alone, poor and black people. And so all that we have as a political discourse is, should trans people exist, yay or nay, right? Like that's half of our political dialogue, which is really stupid. It's just it really should not be, that should not be how we identify someone's political ideology. Like, people ask me why I don't rock with Democrats. Joe Biden, a couple of months ago, they were doing the railroad workers were protesting, striking, I should say. And like, here is Joe Biden, liberal Joe, who, working class Joe from a steel town, who leads with the help of like most Democrats, including some of the Democrats who are part of the squad, signs a bill that basically forces these railroad workers back to work without their demands being met. So it was a pure anti-labor action. And like, as a whole, the Democrats are anti-labor and anti-working class as much as Republicans are. They just do it with the Black Lives Matter flag on their front lawn.
Well, I kind of want to nail down the conservative thing. So maybe the best way is like, so the way that I conceptualize, the left versus right spectrum is that the left generally, if I were to create like a broad label of how I define left and the right, the left generally believes that all of society's problems stem from current systems and past traditions. And so in order to fix society, we have to look outward in the world to new things that haven't been done before. And I think this is what leads the left to be more xenophilic, is being more open towards other cultures and outsiders, because obviously there are new and different things out there than what we've tried. And I think the right has the exact opposite attitude. They think that any problems we have come from the fact that we've moved away from current systems or current traditions. And so that causes people to be more xenophobic, because it's viewed as if there's a subversion or something that's coming into your working systems and then destroying them from within. And that's kind of how I view like the general categories, the essence, I would say, of left versus right. And I guess I'm not really sure how you define the essence of left versus right.
So in the moment, I don't have a ton of issues with that definition. For me, though, that definition isn't even like all that important.
Mm-hmm.
For me right now, left and right is conservative, progressive, leftist, whatever, is the right. And again, I'm starting from Bernie Sanders and moving right, is things are working just fine. We should change as little as possible. And that includes, of course, maintaining capitalism. And then the left is, hey, shit is clearly fucked up, and we need to dismantle the system as we understand and experience it and build ones that actually work for most of the people as opposed to just a very small percentage.
Well,
and so like that fits into what you just said, but the thing I'm trying to move slightly away from personally, both in my politics, but also my content, is being hyper focused on these proxy social issues of, that are tied to these systems, but I feel like they end up being not dead ends per se, but I don't know, inefficient.
There's more important things to focus on.
Not necessarily, I don't want to say more important either. I just want to say that there's more, it's easier to derail a political conversation when you start getting into, race and gender, because those are things people take very personally.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have deeply rooted beliefs connected to that, and many of them religious. And so I can get more done. So I often tell people, like, I used to work at anti-sex trafficking. We had to work with a lot of churches, a lot of really shitty churches. I'll just be blunt. They used to do things that are really annoying, but like the victims of sex trafficking did not care that much initially that they were being, helped, being rescued by, outreach churches, right? Mm-hmm. And so like at this current moment, as much as it's reasonable, because, I also don't fear certain things as much as, like, say, some of my female counterparts or my trans counterparts, I don't fear as much as they do. I would never tell any of my friends to come. No shade. I just wouldn't tell my friends to come on here and talk to you guys in your audience, just because, like, for them, it would be it can be a harder time. Right.
Sure.
So like, there's that. But at the end of the day, I think more people can be helped by, being more focused on larger scale, more efficient issues like work and labor, like economic inequality.
I can't believe I'm hearing this from you. Oh my God.
Just a pinch, not really, of course, but just a pinch.
Well, the reason that I understand what you're saying, and I've heard a lot of people on the left say things like that. But the reason I think it's important, in my mind, to kind of have like a working understanding of the left and the right and how to conceptualize it is because, we all live in a society and we all have to get along to some extent. We all, at least under our current system, bearing aside any sort of, revolution, we all have to work together to some extent. We all have some kind of political process. and we're all engaged in this, battle of ideas and all these debates and all this stuff. And I think in order to engage other people, you have to understand where they're coming from and what is the ideological or philosophical underpinning that they're operating under. Because if you don't, I feel like it's too easy for us to kind of fall into this idea that everyone views the world the same way that we do. So if someone disagrees with us, they must be lying, or they must be malevolent, or they must be evil. So if you understand, like, oh, people have these completely different moral intuitions, and that's guiding their behavior, not only can you understand where they're coming from, you can understand that maybe they're not just secretly evil, but then also if you want to try to convince people, you can try to frame things in a way that will make more sense to them. Which
Hold on
it
one
seems like
second,
the left
Sitch.
and the right. It seems like the left.
Hilarious.
Oh, what happened?
You just got upstaged by the future blue hair.
Oh, I didn't see. That's funny.
You want to roll
Oh,
too?
Lord.
No problem.
That's hilarious.
But I just, in order, because it feels like the left and right are constantly talking past each other because they're both talking to their own base, and they're making arguments based around those moral intuitions as opposed to the other side's moral intuition.
We want to avoid talking past one another, which I think is very difficult in this day and age.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree that people are talking past each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why that's happening is because there's the people that talk the most and have the microphone, right, are so far apart that there's really not a lot of value in talking to each other. Like I'm here for you all in particular as centrists, are like, you all are benefiting me because I want to keep a pulse on what that means. Like I still watch every once in a while. I'll pop in on what's the guy's name? PF Young, right? Mm-hmm. And I disagree with so much of what I see in this space, mm-hmm. but it's close enough to like reason, and like it at least seems reasonably like intuitive. Mm-hmm. That's like, okay, I can learn and glean, etc. But like we're having a conversation for each other to an extent. The vast majority of your chat, and if you were ever on my channel, my chat would be so far from where you all are that the only value this could have is entertainment value.
But FD, but even though they are very far away, we can understand and steelman their arguments, not completely distort the arguments that they're making. I think that fundamentally is something most people can't do. That's like a learned skill. So, but I'm not convinced if we were to go on your channel or you invited people on our show that were further left, like Professor Flowers, for instance. Like, I don't necessarily know that we could have a conversation with Professor Flowers and she could, see where we're coming from, which you have to really want to do it in order to be able to do it.
Well, so no, I disagree. I don't want to talk about Professor Flowers, just to put that out there. But sure. I disagree that it's a matter of not seeing. I think I have a pretty useful understanding of. I don't think I misunderstand you guys. You're right. I think I'm learning and I'm engaging with like the stuff a little bit, but I haven't learned, like I haven't had too many light bulb moments. This is more about keeping the lines of communications open versus, and to stillman what you just said, the fact that you all are like, that you all move the way you all do, right? That you're not here to like, feed raw meat to your base and dunk on leftists with easy low hanging fruit. Although I did see y'all had some beef with my boy Big Joe. Big Joe. I don't know.
Are you calling him low-hanging fruit?
Hold on, Big Joel. The thing about the Big Joel thing was it is miscommunication. Like our whole show is just trying to get people not to
No. Joel's an idiot. Joel's an idiot.
Yeah, but
Joe's not an idiot. But I don't know what happened. I know it was over the woke thing, so I didn't even bother to really watch because I'm over it. But I want to make a point though.
Right.
If you all made it a point to be more inflammatory and bombastic, etc., mm-hmm. you all would probably have hundreds of thousands of subscribers.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we understand
and so, like,
that.
He's trying to convert. Look, he's trying to convert us.
I'm not trying to convert you. I'm not trying to convert you. I think people convert on their own time and schedule. But I'm just speaking to the fact that I don't know if there's a lot of there's I hate to pull on some old diversity and inclusion work stuff, but there's a philosophy that if you're like trying to make like structural change, specifically in here's place, we're talking about like in the office, right? Culture change. There's like, if there's 10 people, there's 2 people that are already with you, 2 people that are already on your side. And then there's 2 people that are never gonna be there like at all. And then there's 6 people in the middle on either side of the whatever the issue is. And so your job is to utilize those first 2 people to reach and connect with the 3 people they're closest to. And then your job is to go to the 3 people on the opposite end of the spectrum and do whatever you can to pull them in. And then those 2, and then their job is to connect to the 2 people on the opposite end to them, right, if that makes sense.
And so, I understand what you're saying.
And so like when I think of lines of communication, I don't know if it can or should be any different other than just being entertaining,
Well,
I didn't mean to throw Professor Flowers on the bus just before that.
No, it's fine. I just every time she comes up, it's always bad.
I invited her on the show, and she actually was very nice to me in DMs. Responded to me after the blow up with Vosh. We wanted to have her on because I felt like they're completely miscommunicating. So, I just don't want my comment about her to be misconstrued. So
right? No, I don't think you meant any malice. That's going back to it's something I said last time I was here.
Right.
And kind of like to an extent what I'm getting at now.
Right.
Go ahead, Sitch.
Well, I just want to say like obviously, there's entertainment value in, doing political content and having these conversations. That's what necessitates a lot of these conversations in the first place. Adam always says that if we had 1 viewer, he would still talk to me for 8 hours on Sundays. I would talk to Adam for 8 hours on Sundays if we had 1 viewer, as much as I love Adam. But to me, I think it is important to try to not necessarily convince people of anything, but it's just to be like, listen, we are human beings that are operating under, moral principles that, we're operating under our own moral principles and philosophies. It's not like there's just all these evil people out there who all have this intention, in my opinion, to destroy everyone or destroy you. And I feel like because when you came in here, and I know you're sort of memeing, but you're sort of not, and you're kind of talking about how like the Republican Party is basically the philosophies they want to like murder poor people and they want to murder trans people. Like to me,
so let's get it. Can we get into?
Well, let me just say, to me, it's like I don't think you understand what the philosophy that they're operating from, if that's how you view their intention.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show, and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.